So we'll take it from the top. I'm going to take you guys into the world of sneakers and building brands because those really are my two worlds. So about 2 decades back, in the early 2000s, I went on a field trip to the Silicon Valley. So it was actually a delegation of Indian advertising CEOs on their way to meet some of the most exciting companies of that time. I'm talking about Google, I'm talking about Yahoo, which was very big then, I'm talking about Facebook. And it was just fascinating walking those campuses. One thing that hit me was a completely different way of doing things. I mean, here were young professionals in simple jeans and sneakers building billion-dollar ideas. Right? There was no hierarchies, there was no stuffy suits. It was just people coming together to build something. For me, that was really the aha moment. I was that time in mainline advertising, and I for sure knew that digital is not the future, but it is happening then and there. I came back and I quickly made the shift from mainline advertising into digital at a time when digital was not the fancy word. But one more interesting thing happened during that trip. On one of the evenings, I ventured into a mall in Palo Alto and picked up a very simple pair of Nike sneakers. They were not limited editions, they were not something rare, it was just a simple white pair of sneakers. And very unknowingly, and at that point of time I had no clue this is going to happen, it was actually the start of two very distinct phases of my life. One, my career in digital marketing, which then went on into various phases, and the start of me very unknowingly to becoming a sneakerhead. And it was amazing that how it all started on that trip to Silicon Valley. If you look at sneakers, they're really passports to the world. I mean, just pause for a moment and think about it. We have different attires for different countries, right? So you have the saris and the kurtas in India, you have abhaya and the kandura in the Middle East. The West has their suits. But when you look down, there's always a unifying factor. Does not matter where you are, from which country, race, religion. Chances are that on the feet you will find a pair of sneakers. And I found that very fascinating. That, while attire changed, fashion changed, sneakers was that one constant which broke boundaries. It could be something that a kid in Nigeria is wearing, and it could be something that somebody in New York is wearing. And it's very much the same, whether you are a professional, you're a student, you're a billionaire, it just transcended. And that was really something that drew me into sneakers. The more I thought about it beyond just wearing it on my feet, that here is really something that is much more than a pair of shoes. The deeper I got into it, I got a sense that somehow sneakers have seeped into the very fabric of society. It has become part of culture. I mean, if you look at traditionally over years and decades, different people have used sneakers as different forms of expression. Athletes have used it for rebellion, and I'll share a great Michael Jordan story going ahead. Artists have used it as canvas. You can see beautiful art being done on sneakers. Designers have used it as exhibit. So again, the more I thought of it, what it really told me is that sneakers brings everything together, from artists to sports people to businessmen, to designers. I mean, it breaks all walls. And from that symbolizes the way I have gone about building companies, building brands. It's not about getting stuck to one thing. And sneakers, again, has been a great example. It's just broken all boundaries. So one day it could be about business, the next day it could be about entertainment, the third day it could be about art. It all blends down. And luckily in the businesses that we've built, we really, really enjoy doing that. Every day we work on a new category. And that's really an inspiration that comes from sneakers. So let me take you guys to a little anecdote. This was 1985. maybe Michael Jordan's first year in the NBA or maybe second, I do not know the exact. Something very, very, very iconic happened. Nike launched the famous Jordan shoes and they launched it in a particular color, which was red and black. And at that point of time, NBA had very strict rules on the colors that you could wear. And this obviously did not fit. And they banned it. They banned it outright. And they came out firing and they said to Nike that you will have to pay a fine of X dollars. I don't remember. Maybe it was $5,000 a game or maybe more or less. And Nike very smartly said, you know what? We will pay the fine. And every game Jordan wore that shoe, they paid the fine because they knew that they had found that moment of rebellion which connected with everybody. They went a step further. They actually launched a commercial which said that we launched the new Jordans on 15th October. On 18th October, the NBA banned it. But luckily, you can still wear it. It went on to become one of the most iconic ads in the history of sneakers. But here again, the biggest outcome for me was rebellion. If it is done in the right manner, it's a force of nature. It does not go against the game, it's a game changer. So fascinating, fascinating story, and this really has been a turning point into marketing, advertising, the way brands have been built, and we've all seen some of iconic ads from Nike and Jordan. Now let's move ahead decades later, right? Sneakers have now moved. So from 1980s, let me take you all to maybe 5 years back. Sneakers have moved from pounding basketball courts into the fashion world, into catwalks. Today, we see lots of fashion brands taking out sneakers. They're collaborating with sneaker brands. So we saw Nike, Jordan's come doing a collab with Dior. We've seen On and Loewe doing a collab. There are multiple collabs. Suddenly, something which was worn by athletes just 2 decades back, today is the darling of the fashion world. You see it in catwalks all along. And that again tells you that how sneakers transcend and become part of the social fabric. Even within this, there's a very interesting story of this gentleman that you see on screen, Virgil Abloh, is no more here, one of the most fantastic sneaker designers or designers of our times. I think it was 2018. Virgil was hired by Louis Vuitton, the world's most iconic luxury brand, to be the head of their men's creative. He was the head of men's designer. It was his first show, and it was just iconic. It broke all records. A boy from Chicago who was designing t-shirts, who he was really into streetwear. The two worlds never met. Streetwear was very different from luxury. But with him coming in, helmed the world's biggest iconic brand in the luxury world, it was a meeting of cultures. And that again opened lots of doors, but it also taught me that no matter where you come from, it's your work that counts. I mean, here was somebody who came from a completely different background and went on to head one of the largest luxury brands in the world. The other beauty of sneakers, a lot of people keep asking me, why do you collect so much sneakers? What is it about it that is different? What I find fascinating about sneakers is that they never judge you. I mean, look at it. Clothes you would have bought maybe 5 years back don't no longer fit you. Fashion trends change, right? Or they fade. Sneakers are always the same. They never judge you. They don't see your race. They don't see your color. They don't see your body weight, body type. They're always there. And that again is a fantastic quality. I mean, imagine if you were surrounded with people who never judged us, accepted us for what we are. And that's what sneaker does. The other thing always is that I get questioned is, do you spend too much time collecting sneakers? What about your work? Right? And at the same time, a lot of people come and ask me, what are your passions? And why do you have a passion? A lot of people have questions saying that, will my passion get me something? Will this lead to something? And my answer has always been that the best passions are ones where you have no expectations what is going to give you. So it's not for networking, it's not for getting something, it's not for your business goals, it's for you. It's the joy that it gives you, it's the happiness that it gives you. For me, it comes from sneakers, the joy of going and standing in line outside the store for hours to get something, or using tech to cop something which is otherwise extremely difficult. The pure joy of passion, right? And the same again applies to anything that you do in life, especially in business. If you really go about doing your work, focusing on the passion at your work, the results will follow. But if you just keep chasing results, it's going to be extremely difficult to justify some of the things that you do and not get those returns. Sneakers have taught me that. The other fascinating thing from my world, which is really about building brands, is what sneaker marketing teaches us. Some of the best marketing practices have come from the sneaker category. I mean, just look at it. Today, everybody talks about influencers and influencer marketing. Sneakers were doing it 30 years back. They got rappers to come in and design sneakers. Run DMC, one of the most iconic rappers in the 80s, built something for Adidas which is iconic even now. They were the first one who said that let's get artists to come and design. Let's get sports people to come and design. Michael Jordan didn't come as a brand ambassador. He co-designed those shoes for them, which is why they're called Jordans. Again, great example. Today people are talking about collabs. Today people are talking about influencer marketing. The sneaker category did it long back. The other thing which they do beautifully well is really, appealing to this human psychology of FOMO. Right? Sneakers do limited drops. They create that scarcity, which today a lot of brands use. Scarcity marketing is what we call it. They were the first in the category to do that. Just launch a limited number of pairs, so the whole world wants it, and because the whole world wants it, you want more of it. And it never ends, right? It's a classical marketing trick, very well done. Adoption of tech, other than the finance sector, I think sneakers has been one sector that has been off the charts way early, 2.5 decades back, to adopt technology. Today, you can try a virtual pair of sneakers from anywhere. You have bots which actually help people to cop sneakers. There's so much of tech that the sneaker world, in terms of marketing, has adopted. So it's fantastic the way sneakers have gone and taught other brands on how to really leverage and market culture. This is really about me. So while, unknowingly, as I said, from that Silicon Valley trip 2 decades back, or maybe more than 2 decades back now, where I moved into digital marketing, where I slowly got my first pair, I could see this shift happening where before I knew, I was collecting sneakers. It was something so it was not something that I set out to do, right? And the more I did it, the more I enjoy. Today, the collection is massive. I've stopped counting once I crossed 1,000 pairs, and it's been years that I've done that. But just the fact that there's so much to learn from them, there's so much joy, the kind of people you meet, fellow collectors all over the world, the fascinating stories that they have, and especially from a brand building point of view, it's all about stories, and it all comes alive. And today, it really comes alive on my page on Instagram, which is called The Sneaker Monk. And finally, to end this, and I have a minute left, finally to end this whole thing, what are the lessons that we really learn from this, right? So I think it's really about being authentic. It's really about going after what is it that really gives us joy. And for all of us to remember that, we all have the same, we all start off with the same laces. It's about what we do with it. It's about how true we are with our journey, and without judging others. Remember, everyone is wearing a different pair, but finally they're all chasing the same dream. So who are we to judge? Thank you.